can see that on alternate. There. Come on down.
Yeah.
Paul Hamilton, you're welcome.
Good morning.
Do you want the?
We're gonna liven this bad boy up.
Okay.
Budget. Walking with Kurt, I'm like, hey, Paul's letting the bean counter out. So here we go. All right, so this presentation, we're basically gonna be talking about just our planning, initiatives, assumptions, considerations as we're going through the process and kind of go through the calendar. The agenda. Let's go ahead to the next one, Nicole. Real quick, as we look at the budget calendar, our first actual sort of financial presentation is going to be at the September board meeting. The biggest thing about that one is we basically look at our transit service schedule we ran in 2025 and as if we run the same plan, scheduled plan in 2026. And then we're going to start to bake in, the initial assumption is we usually go 3%, kind of a threshold on the department operating expenses. We'll start to look at the revenue trends going on right now. Paul works very closely with all your finance directors and see how that bakes in. So we'll work through the revenue, that part of the analysis throughout the process. But really is, what is it going to cost next year to run the same plan as this year with certain cost assumptions as well as the revenues? The bottom line with that is really for us to figure out what is our fund balance that we have for initial strategic initiatives to incorporate into the second draft. So when we get into the November presentations, and for some of the board members for the past years, we used to have an October budget presentation. We're actually going to kind of combine, that was kind of right in the middle. Probably one of the big things is Mr. Michael Yang was very open for us to move that one because it really just took a lot of extra work to prepare for it, but it didn't change a whole lot of the numbers. So when we get into November, our second draft will be November. That one's really for us, when we present it, it's kind of our full budget presentation, meaning it's going to have all the strategic initiatives incorporated based on the executive committee's recommendation, as all fine tuning going across the board from putting the property taxes information from the assessors, and really by then we'll have kind of a final direction on our film. Then we'll get into the final draft presentation in December. That's going to be the board adoption budget. Ideally from November to December, it's more fine tuning, a lot of that, and any of the information from the board that we really need to possibly look to incorporate, edit, delete, review between November, December. Any questions on that? I'm just gonna say this up front. I'm like a one big long run-on sentence, so just feel free to cut me off as I'm going.
Looking good.
Go ahead. So if you just look at some of our real priorities, it's really aligning the 2026 budget with the strategic plan. A lot of that with strategic initiatives. When we look at a balanced budget, like our revenues, expenses, balance to zero. And then one of the things that adhere to the financial reserve thresholds, the primary one there is we need to ensure based on governance that we have at least 2 months of greater than either revenues or expenditures in the general fund, that we have that available as a reserve. When we start talking about revenues, sales tax and property tax, if you look at it holistically, that's 2/3 of RFTA's operating revenues. It's going to be coming from sales tax and property tax. When we're looking at sales tax, again, one of the nice things about all your finance directors, they're very responsive to Paul, getting information, collaborating, sharing information, which is a huge help. As we're going through, we look right now just where we're at today. So in July, we basically collect revenues, sales tax going back through the actual month of May. If we're looking through May, year over year compared to last year, we're running right about a little over 4% compared to last year. I think the agenda summary is 3%, but as we got all the information in, we are actually running 4% over last year. if you look at what we budgeted a little over 2% growth on sales tax. So at least right now, we're trending in the right direction. And as we go through, so that is a little positive. One of the things as we look at trends and things like that, we try to stay away from the noise that's being countered. We're not good at getting all that noise. We try to just look at what truly is coming down on the piece of paper. So we're pleasantly happy right now. Obviously, this does not include any of the summer months yet. So we'll see how that plays out. Property taxes, just on a holistic view right now, through July, we roughly collected 95% of budgeted property tax in 2020. So and we're trying to be right about there. We'll talk a little bit more about the property tax bill and potential impacts that might have on RFTA. As we develop assumptions, we have operating grants, which is really two primary grants we get on a regular basis. We have our Colorado State Faster that helps with the hogback service, and that's $200,000 as we pay in the budget, as well as a federal 5311 operating grant that helps support the regional service, and that's give you roughly about $1.3 million.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Are the levels of these grants keeping up with, I'm thinking about inflation, you guys are going to talk about that at some point. What do you expect costs to be? Are the trends with the increased revenues keeping up with what we anticipate inflation doing to the value of these dollars?
They do not. So the 5311's more, we're pretty much right about 1.3 on an annual basis. There's some small adjustments to that one. The hogback, the 200,000, that's been fairly steady for a long time. So they really don't keep up with inflationary costs for us to run the services. So that is something I know Dave Johnson and his team, they do pursue, like, what's the best avenue going through there? There is another avenue coming down that Kurt, David hasn't checked, and we'll talk real briefly about it. It's going to be very strategic. It deals with the CTE, which is coming from Colorado Department of Transportation funds on oil and gas production fees. A lot of that will get flushed out, and there's going to be a lot from the RFTA side, very strategic on how we go about going for that. And that money itself is really for a new service. It's how do you expand your service and get more people on your buses versus the status quo is going on.
Thank you. Check out there. Dollars aren't worth as much. Nice to have.
No, we would love for it to grow.
No, Rachel.
Yeah, these are a little more comments than questions per se, but we all know the state is going into a special session later this month because of changes to the Colorado tax collections from the big beautiful bill in DC. And, they're saying it creates $1 billion deficit in Colorado's budget. I don't know what they're going to come up with, but I'm very concerned that the cuts will come schools and transportation and things like this. And I don't know their approach. Are they going to just try to cut? We're kind of looking at whether or not there's a way to put a ballot question on this November by them that would maybe decouple us from the federal tax form so that Colorado doesn't lose as much revenue. But my thought was, I don't know if RFTA is deliberately lobbying or going to think about what they're going to come out with and let them know how important the transportation funding dollars that still flow through CDOT are. And so it's kind of a heads up to talk to whoever is your lobbyist or whoever, make sure our interests are protected down there and whatever path they're taking forward. I'm also looking at two other things really briefly. But I know we do a 1-year budget and a 5-year budget projection and things like this, and we have to take into account the closure of the Aspen-Pickens County Airport coming up in the fall of 2027. And, right now we're hearing a number of the major hotels are going to close for renovations since the airport is closed. And the chamber is trying to think about how they're going to shuttle people from Grand Junction and Eagle Airport, things like this. But I know our departments are budgeting a 15% decrease for sales taxes as a minimum for that year. We'll have to see how it's really shaking out. And so I want to pass that along. And the last thing is just, we continue to hear of demands or requests for greater hogback service, more frequent hogback service. And I was reading through the budget, with the amount that Garfield County had put in the past. I don't know if we should say, hey, we need this much to continue status quo, and if you give us another 200,000, we'll be able to give you this kind of service, and do something, present it to them as an option to be able to really help us increase that service to the hogback. That's all. Thank you very much.
I just want to flag, that's probably good questions for Kurt and Mike, or I'm waiting in the wings for when that comes up. I don't know, that's part of the.
Sure, yeah, these are just to get it out there for the conversation, whoever can respond.
Kurt, were you planning to address that, and if not, in your report, or now if you want?
I might let Michael address some of the first comments from Rachel regarding the budget, some of the concerns that there might be around just forecasts, and then I can touch on the hogback.
Okay.
Well, I think from RAP's, we work on our annual budget, but we also have an updated long-range forecast that we do annually. And so, with respect to what you're saying about 2027, I think that's important to keep an eye on and talk to the finance directors just to make sure that we're on the same page, and we can adjust our projections accordingly. I think it'll be also a good opportunity to understand what the demands might be or how they might change from transit as well.
Yeah.
But I think that with respect to Grand Hogback as a background, the county contributed $544,500 this year, 2025 service. Our initial request was $757,000. Due to constraints on their end, we were able to receive what we did. So at that point in time, I believe the board about and continue the level of service, knowing that transit demand is high. And I think that we'll continue to face similar constraints going into the 26 budget year. And I know that they already reached out to us, the county, Garfield County, about trying to attend a work session next week to start having preliminary conversations about what estimates it would be next year's service. And so I know that there's indications that their property tax revenues
tied into this gangster prison action, and I just think it's a negative poisonous message. You think you get a bad rap?
Continual issue that is part of the
Discussions.
Part of the discussion. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to assure the board that even though the revenues from the county have been declining for the hogback, we continue to ask for the amount that's needed. So we just submitted yesterday our request for 2026 funding for the hogback, and I believe it was over 800,000, which was an increase from our ask last year.
Right.
And obviously much more than what they provided us this year. The indications are that the contribution from the county is going to likely be even less than what they provided us this year. So that's going to be discussions we're going to have to decide how
We have no audio. We can't hear anything from the room. Hello, hello.
I can hear you.
But you can't hear the room, right?
That's correct.
I'm watching the chat. Maybe if we wave as a group.
I'm
and, like,
talking to the IT people there to let them know.
With the hope
Oh, there we go.
of increasing the service
Bicycle
levels
over
from
there.
where they are today. The biggest challenge for the service between Newcastle and Rifle, it's just there's not very many midday trips, if any. And the conversation though might have to shift to how can we keep the service levels where they're at today with the decrease in possible contributions from the county. So it's unfortunate timing because there is growing interest from those communities. I think she can hear it now. So, but these will be conversations we're going to continue to have over the next several months. The board.
Thank
Just want to add a clarifying comment. I know we spoke about Garfield County's contribution to the Grand Hogback service. Their portion of funding really is directed towards the section west of Newcastle to Rifle. Just so the service between Newcastle and Glenwood, that's not part of that scope. Just to clarify.
All right, back to you. One thing as we get into our strategic initiative process, just kind of a reminder, this process really starts with RFTA leadership, department heads submitting requests into the committee by June 30th. Like right now, the executive committee is in reviewing the process of all strategic initiatives, kind of prioritizing them. And then the next big piece obviously is the funding that needs to be available for a lot of these strategic initiatives and what's going to be advanced into that second draft. So just as we get into economic trends, one of the things which is obviously valuable to bring up what's going to happen in the jurisdiction, that Paul really does get a lot of that information because he's really asking, hey, what does 26 look, what's 25 looking like, what's 26 look like, and anything going past. So having that information on 27, it's huge benefit for us as we try to forecast and trend things out. Again, as we look, we're running about 2% year over year higher than our budget growth in sales tax revenue. So from that standpoint, we're pleasantly surprised. We've seen some ups and downs a little more than we have, but we're happy about that. One other big item, as we go through a lot of our capital projects, capital purchases, at the end of the year, anything that's unexpended really rolls through, and that's when we usually have that March budget resolution carrying forward any unspent funds from one year to the next. As we look at some of the new budget considerations, we talked real briefly about the property tax revenue limit. If you just kind of look at this overall, it has a constraint of 5.25% per year on how much growth can come through when you do the assessment on the property taxes. As we've gotten some information from the current assessors and everything, looking at most likely for us at RFTA, we're probably looking at pretty flat property taxes compared. We'll have probably a little impact just on the quick analysis thus far, but most likely our property taxes is going to be pretty flat to this year. Historically, when we've had an assessment year on the collections, not counting the last one, which was a big jump in everybody's assessed values, going back to the one prior to that, we looked at about an 8.5% growth from property taxes. So this is going to be a little more flat. So a lot of these considerations as we're looking more long range in future is like, how is this going to impact us going forward? Is this not going to have any growth on the revenue side? And then how do we manage the cost with it? The grant funding, a lot of that SB 230 formula really deals with the clean transit enterprise, that CDOT, oil and gas, that David Pezinchek and Kurt and everybody. It's going to be a very strategic process in how we go about and look at advancing civils. Other initiatives currently going on. Some of this stuff has past board presentations, but when we talk about the Aspen Maintenance Facility, we're going through that master plan study to really kind of focus and prioritize exactly what do we need to define that full scope at Aspen. So there are some major ones going on, from the bus wash replacement that needs to get done, as well as a roof replacement. But it was really a step back, was make sure everything's in alignment and really figure out what is going to be any major repairs and maintenance costs going forward. So more to come on that one as we get closer. We're getting close to getting that full study done here shortly. When we talk, yes, ma'am.
And I'm sorry, I just want to put out there, as you're looking at those things between Glenwood Maintenance Facility and Aspen, and if there's any reduction in the pure building size or need, that it could be a potential site for future affordable housing or RFTA. And just to kind of keep that in the back of the mind as these things are laid out. Thank you.
Looking at employee housing, one of the things I'll be coming up is, as we've had Iron Mountain Place come on board, which is a huge lift for us. The other thing is looking at some of our existing, like Parker House. You know, a lot of the TLC that needs to go into Parker, what's the best avenue for that location? So a lot of this stuff is in process, being reviewed, and it's going to be a part of the strategic initiative process. The enterprise resource planning, I know a lot of you warned us, it's going to be a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So right now, if we just look at our HCM side, which is really the human capital management piece, we're set to deploy that by the end of this year, December of 2025. The financial part of our ERP system, we're looking at next March. So that's just a big investment, and thanks to the board for really supporting this. And we're really looking forward to getting through the process and all the capabilities we'll have once we have Workday implemented. The Zero Fare pilot project, David Johnson's in touch a little bit after this presentation, but for fall, one of the things as we're going to this first draft, we will not be budgeting into a Zero Fare pilot project in next year's budget for that first draft. More information will come down as the strategic initiatives get evaluated and how this process goes this fall. The other big thing that always sort of comes up, I'm sure every jurisdiction always feels this pain, but IT infrastructure. So there's a couple of things coming down for us. The infrastructure still works, it's just the support behind it from Microsoft, whoever, they just don't support it anymore. So there's gonna be a handful of upgrades that need to happen, especially when we look down at the geo.
Ask a quick question about Zero Fare. Do you think you'll be able to collect enough data on that when we going forward? If we reach a point where we think it may not be possible to make everything free all the time, but will we have some good information we can share with employers to convince them perhaps that it's time to, the ones who aren't offering employee bus passes might be incentivized to do it. I'm just trying to think if they're, what other benefits we're going to get out of this data wise?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes, the quick answer. We definitely will be able to work with employers. To explain the strategic initiative that has been submitted for 2026 regarding Zero Fare was to, where we feel that there's an opportunity in the near term for Zero Fares is in our off seasons. So in the fall and the spring. So that's the initiative that was submitted for 26 was for a spring Zero Fare and a fall Zero Fare. The challenge is, as you understand, I'm sure, is just the timing of that pilot that we're doing this year. We're going to be nearing finalization of our budget, and we might have to make a call one way or the other of whether we include that initiative for 26 or not, based on the information we've gained.
Got it. Thank you. Well, go ahead, Rachel.
Really quickly, I guess the information I'm hoping we get from the Fare Free experience is a little bit of, even if it's an estimate, of how many more park and ride locations we need or spots, or how many more drivers or how many buses to fulfill what that future demand would be. And that may be, again, information that comes too late for next year's budget, but we can work with it and weave it in later over time. But I see that as new capital as being what comes out of our studies.
Yes, that's certainly selfishly what RFTA staff is looking to learn from the pilot. And that's why we're doing it in these off seasons right now, so that we feel that we have the most capability to handle a zero fare or increased demand. So yeah, more to come on that. We do have a presentation that'll speak to what we're looking to learn.
Like if we could also come up with an idea of how much are people saving through free bus? Our conversations lately haven't been around transportation security, but we've been talking a lot about food security and how Lift Up has a record number of clients. And throughout the valley, all the food banks, everything are working hard and we need them. And it's all about what does it actually cost to feed the family. If RFTA can help save people money, I'm just wondering if there's a nexus, some sort of something we can talk about that, how could this help people save money in addition to all the other great things, getting them on the bus, making it more transparent and seamless to use transportation, all that good stuff. Just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, for sure.
David.
For the data side, will we be able to tell who, not individually who, but like separate the data into like, these are the people that weren't riding before, this is their behavior, this is where they're getting on, all, and kind of understanding what that additional market that we're essentially, ridership that we're essentially reaching versus, kind of the same attributes for our existing ridership, which you probably get on the regular anyway. That would be really interesting to see, like, okay, so the free people, what are they doing and what do they want versus others?
Yeah, the way we're planning to approach that aspect of the data collection is we're planning for an onboard survey during the pilot so that we can survey the riders on the buses and gain that information regarding who's new, what led them to try running the zero fare, where they coming from, where they're going. So we'll be able to get a lot of that information. So
We use that to kind of extrapolate, based on the survey data you get, use that in a statistically intelligent way.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
We can appeal to riders to please help us with this survey. It'll be important to the future of bus fares.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I apologize to David first. I completely derailed your presentation. Sorry.
Now we had.
This is perfect. Okay.
And I'll contribute to that sidetrack. You mentioned the online survey, which makes sense, Kurt. This is something that seems to kind of follows up from your presentation on the online survey you did of existing riders, basically. Will it be of similar format? Will the data you get from this survey be able to integrate with your bigger one?
It'll be an onboard survey. So that means we'll have survey takers on the buses actively engaging with riders. I'll look to David. I know we have a presentation here following David's budget presentation on the zero fare, and we'll have a lot more information to share. And maybe we have too many Davids. And
Really?
the David over here, David Mesnichek, will be able to speak more to the survey. David Johnson.
Okay.
Another David.
Come on, you guys. We got to talk to HR about this. Okay, back to David.
All right, Nicole, let's go over to the next slide. Just going through some of the considerations, and this is some of the stuff that's been presented in prior board meetings. Obviously, we have our Glenwood Maintenance Facility, the underground storage tank replacement project. One of the things about the Glenwood Maintenance Facility, the phases 6 and 8, this is where we have some of our federal funds kind of frozen, so we haven't really advanced this. Just as a reminder, we did pull a little bit of funding from phases 6 and 8 to get the underground storage tank, but that was a very big high priority. I just feel like, go ahead, Kurt.
I did want to provide just a brief update on this grant, since there was some recent activity yesterday. So, we'll see. So we did finally get, direct information from the Office of the Secretary of Transportation of why it's frozen and what they're looking for. So there was a request asking if we wanted to, this particular grant is through a Federal Transit Administration program called Low and No Emission Grant Funding. So it's for projects that support low or no emission. Well, our grant request is for a building. So it's not particularly a vehicle with a certain propulsion type. But the ask from the, referred to as OST, Office Secretary of Transportation, was they were asking if we wanted to change our propulsion type, which was a little confusing because it's not a propulsion system, it's a building. So the feedback that we received from Region 8 and from our lobbyists is that within the narrative of our application, we refer to the facilities supporting low emission vehicles within our system. And just the language of low emission was, or I shouldn't say low emission, no emission. No emission language was sort of throughout our application and even in the title of our application. So the guidance we received from the regional office was take that language out and convert it to low emission. So any reference to emission within our application, we revised to say low emission versus no emission. And just yesterday, they had a specific email address that we were to send our statement that we would like to change our propulsion type, and then the new application with the revised language. So we submitted that yesterday to the OST, and fingers crossed at this point that that's what was needed for them to release the funds to us.
Remind us the amount of the funding.
32.8 billion.
Okay, well, hope that works.
Yes. And I will also say that for some reason it doesn't work, we may be planning a fall trip to Washington. So we'll keep the board posted if that's something we'd like.
Okay, back to Dave.
One thing I didn't bring up, as part of this whole process is the departments, we work very close with all the department heads and really go fine tooth on the 2025 forecast. It's one thing I didn't bring up. As we're building, and then we start to look at 2026 is where we at with 25. We've had a lot of assumptions we had to go through as our Glenwood maintenance facility, the phases 3, 4, 5, 7, our first full year being active, as well as Iron Mountain Place employee housing opening up. So there is that big piece that we end up doing a lot of 2025 work throughout this process prior to getting into 26. Staffing, one of the things when we look at staffing, kind of twofold. One, in the 2025 budget, there's certain positions that might have been budgeted part year. So a lot of it is going from a part year to a full year for certain positions, as well as one of the big things for staffing has always been bus operators. Where are we at? And we are probably the highest, I think Ian will attest to this, the highest number of bus operators we've had in probably 5 years, 6 years. There was a lot of effort, a lot of board help on different initiatives on pay packages, as well as the housing efforts. We have Mark Screw, we have a lot of individual team members really helped get to where we're at today. So we're actually in a better place than we've ever been. Now, as we go through within our staffing too, is do we have the right number of bus operators within the budget that matches the schedule that we're currently doing? So we actually go through a lot of analysis there, where sometimes it goes, hey, based on adding in all the costs or time from vacation to sick and everything else, it might mean even if you're running your current levels, you might have to add 1 or 2 additional bus drivers. Then as we start to look at the next process is there going to be additional service provided? Because we're actually to the point now with our staffing levels that we can start to contemplate. Like no fair, all that stuff would have happened at all over the last couple of years just based on bus operators. Fuel, 2 things to this one as we're considering going through. One, Mr. Michael Yan, we do a lot of fixed contract pricing on our diesel. So we kind of lock in, which really helps the volatility of fuel change. So Mr. Michael Yan really focuses in on locking in that. The next piece is we're gonna have a lot of electric buses showing up next year. So we'll be shifting a little bit of the fleet mix next year and making those assumptions on when are those buses gonna get here? The change going into electric, what routes are they gonna be on, and when we're actually gonna get them on the road. So a lot of that will be built into, so we'll be moving a little bit, a lot of our diesel costs into the cost of running an electric vehicle. Healthcare costs are going up. So right now, preliminary for RFTA is roughly about a 17.5% increase in healthcare costs and a 10% increase in dental. As we've gone through, I know last year during the budget, we talked a lot about, hey, how do we get, and we call it it's like the loss ratio, how much is being spent on your employees in health insurance to how much you're contributing. We've improved slightly. So if we look at RFTA's loss ratio in the healthcare world, we run about 220%, meaning for every $2.20 that's spent on healthcare costs for our employees, we are contributing $1 to RFTA. So one of the big things, being a part of the pool is huge for us because it does shield us from even larger increases. But as we're going through, we're still running high. So they're still anticipating roughly about a 17. We'll know more. Erin and her team they're having bigger conversations in middle of September to really figure out and flush out the final cost. I think last year they gave us a little bit higher, but then we came down a little bit. So for 2025, our increase was 12%. So, but during this first draft, when we present September, we are going to bake in that 17.5% increase just to see where it lands. And then we'll have more information, then we'll define tune that into our November, the second draft presentation. The other big piece is the biannual compensation review. So every 2 years, Erin and her team and the human resource side, we do go out and we do the big study to figure out, hey, where we at wage-wise on different positions, how we're going across within the valley. So a lot of that information, the executives they meet quite regularly on this one to figure out exactly where is this going to go? Like, how do we go through with certain positions? Is it across the board? Most likely what's going to happen, that first draft we present in September, we're kind of have a framework of an amount to placehold, and it'll probably get flushed out over the next couple of months to say, hey, this is how we're going to gear that review, whether it's 1%, 2%, whatever that is. It'll be flushed out come November, but most likely we'll do some sort of framework cost for this in the September presentation. Regional bike share plan. So right now, 2026 is going to be the 4th year of the 6-year plan. So it goes out to 2028, from 2023 to 2028. Just at a high level right now, looking at the total cost of the bike share plan in 2026, it's roughly about a 9 to 10% increase over 2025. Obviously, we've seen a huge expansion. I know Mary Harlan presents, the numbers have been phenomenal. The growth of the program has been fantastic. But that's kind of what we're seeing. So we will bake in. So this will obviously go past that 3% threshold, but it goes through that overall regional bike share plan out to 2028. First last mile mobility grant program. Just looking at everything, if you kind of look at the 2 main buckets going into 2026, there was a chart and agenda summary.
Yeah, it's a public meeting.
We have
They're-
2
they're-
pieces are the
they're
RFTA
semi-governmental.
support of microtransit.
So they-
Roughly is gonna
they
be
follow the same
about
rules on council.
1.1 million. That's covering up Assault and Glenwood Springs. 2025 is about 1 million. And then a lot of the grant applications submitted from the jurisdictions, a lot of it supporting the WeCycle, the regional area WeCycle there. And that's gonna be about $300 and some thousand. So overall for the first last mile mobility, it's 1.4 million right now we're looking at for 2026. I would say in 2025 was 2.1 million. We did have roughly that $500,000 submittal from Glenwood Springs for that 6th Street corridor improvements. So right now, there's no improvement of that nature in the 2026 budget. Community partner grant requests. A lot of this falls down the same strategic initiative process. This is roughly about 50,000 that RFTA contributes out based on applications submitted For example, in 2025, we had Local Trails supporting some of their operating. The RTCC, that's that mobility for disadvantaged as well as low-income individuals that RFTA helps. They get a grant, so RFTA helps cover the local portion for that piece, as well as the Garfield County efficient energy program. So a lot of this will get flushed out during the process and the strategic initiative process by the executives. Service contracts, goes through the whole process. When we think about service contracts, our partners, Glenwood Springs, City of Aspen, Aspen Ski Co., as well as Aspen Music School, will be going through that whole process. It's interesting because everybody's timing is a little bit different. So Paul really has us work on a lot of kind of high-end calculations to really figure out where we're going to come out with their service contract providers. Bus stops, park and ride, a lot of this is just the maintenance, keeping it up. You know, we're very fortunate. We have a fantastic facilities manager, Dustin, that really helps. Over the time on streamlining it from the days from my Kerms and Angie helping out build the framework we're at today, it's been a huge improvement over the last few years. Now, we've come to that last bullet. This is other considerations. So is there anything at this point in time that's coming to mind? It's time for our open Q&A session for this quick presentation.
Colin?
Kurt, I was just wondering about the timeframe for getting, the notes from our strategic planning session, so we can cross-reference with the budget process.
Yes, that is a great question. We do have those created. We're right now in the process of taking your priorities and developing key results for those objectives. We should be able to have those available at the September.
Okay,
Thanks.
Bill Guth has his hand up.
Hey, Bill.
Thanks very much. I'm curious, and I don't know any
So
history.
hi, hang on
We need volume on that.
Can you hear me?
1 second.
Keep talking.
Why did that?
Let me know when you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now? 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 Can you hear me now?
Hard to know if they're talking in the room or waiting to get our audio figured out. I can
Now,
hear you, Bill.
Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm online. I
Got
think
it.
online we can hear each other.
Yeah, this online setup leaves a lot to be desired.
Oh, we got a chat. We're working on it.
Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Hey, Greg. Okay. Okay. Will do. Talk through this cell phone or talk through the computer? Okay. Sorry for the challenges, everybody. One thing, and I don't know if there's some history on this or not, but I'm wondering if there's any revenue opportunities for RFTA that we should contemplate taking the opportunity to sort of proactively seize. Things that could be net income generators, providing certain services to private entities, businesses, or events, or whatever they might be that could generate net income for the organization to help offset some of our other expense loads. Not sure if that's something that's ever contemplated, if we do any of it at the moment, if we've tried that in the past or not, but wanted to throw that out there.
You got that.
Great.
Do you want to address them?
Spell audio.
Maybe you can take that offline about that. I can do that for about, so he'll get back to you. Okay. No, he's got it. We're back. And going down, but I don't see him talking. I think I'm gonna keep us moving, Bill.
I don't either.
Apologies.
Maybe I should go back.
Okay, David. Oh, I'm really, Councilman.
This is ridiculous.
It's doing.
They hear us? Okay.
Can you hear us now?
Just try.
Okay, it's back. Or was back.
No problem. Later, you're gonna.
We're working.
I'm
The opportunities we see here are, we can increase ridership. We can reduce greenhouse gas emissions through this program. We
Time, or is it taking them more time to get where they're going? Not this change in habits, I'm just, we're costing people more time, will that eventually be an incentive or just a thought?
Sure, yeah, something you could talk to Kuna about that as well.
Sure.
November, we will also start to inform riders that, hey, the fare free program is coming to an end. We will start charging fares again, starting December 1st.
Well, while you're on that, while we're promoting this, are you going to mention that there'll be supervisors and security looking out for, to helping make it flow smoothly, just so people are alerted so they can anticipate seeing a security person there? Just wondering if that's a good idea or not.
To start initially, we're not anticipating that there being any more presence than they normally see. What we're doing is we've worked with our security contractor to be prepared in the event that we are seeing issues to where we do have to have more of a security presence. Our hope is that there won't need to be.
Okay.
So I think though, if we do feel that does need to be an enhanced presence throughout our system, at that point, we can communicate that out to our customers.
Great, thanks.
All right, last slide. Whoever's doing this. Couple of things on schedule. September 15th, we will put a fare free announcement on our mobile payment app, a banner saying fare free service is coming up, and our 30-day pass purchases will be disabled starting September 15th. September 30th, the day before the program starts, all fare purchases will be disabled on the app. We will also be covering fare boxes and ticket vending machines and otherwise basically disabling all our fare collection equipment to make sure that people are not mistakenly purchasing fares.
Does that include also the activation of previously purchased tickets?
What we're trying to do, someone else might be able to answer this better, but what the intent here is to make sure that anyone that can purchase fare, for instance, particularly like a 30-day pass, people that would normally purchase those and that aren't quite aware that this is happening, that we will prevent as much as possible from people from purchasing fares and then realizing, oh, it's fare free, I shouldn't have done that.
I can speak a little more, or Mike might be able to. I think the main concern was for season pass holders. The way we sell our summer season pass includes the summer season as well as fall. So for anybody that purchased one of those summer passes in, say, the spring or early summer, a portion of that pass they purchased would fall into this zero fare period. And I'll let Mike speak to how we're planning to handle that.
That's probably a bigger consideration, but I mean, there'll be some people who will have one on their app, hit it, and they're like, oh, I didn't need to burn
Activate it.
$4 pass, yeah.
Yeah. And that's where it'll be disabled within the app.
Okay.
And just our finance department had issued credits to businesses and anyone who's already purchased seasonal zone passes through before June. So that has already been credited to their accounts. And then the prices were adjusted in June 1st going forward so that we wouldn't have that situation for the rest of the season. So those businesses have already received their credits to apply for, say, the winter zone pass and stuff like that.
Great.
Okay, November 1st through 15th, we're looking at that time period. Once this fare program is solid, fare free pilot is solidly in place, that we will do that onboard survey. We anticipate that it'll be one weekend, one weekday, but we're still working with the contractor on that to figure out how the best way to administer this survey. And then maybe another thing to note is once the zero fare pilot program is complete, after that's over, so December through February, we believe we will be collecting data and we will plan to report back all the things we talked about, looking at those, looking at the vehicle counters on 82, looking at the park and ride capacity, analyzing the onboard survey data. All that stuff will be happening in a roughly 3-month period after this program is over.
Right. Very exciting. Rachel.
Thank you so much for all the work putting this together. I know it's not been easy and there's a lot of little details to think of. The one thing I'm thinking of is if you guys put out a PDF about the Fare Free that you could send to all our local governments to put out on our newscast or our community bulletins, or we could maybe decide to run ads in the newspaper with it to let people know about, but let your members be the ones to know that we can help you with that advertising and getting the word out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Jamie, I'm the PIO. We're working on media kits for all the local chambers and our members' jurisdictions. We'll be sending those out in the following weeks where they can take the information and share it with their staff and their employees and their community members. So.
Great. Thank you so much for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It occurs to me that the marketing and publicity for this could be really fun. You know, you ask people what will you do with the money you save, you know.
This is maybe the funnest thing we've
You could go skydiving, you know, whatever, you know. So anyway, I think hopefully we can have a lot of fun with this and I'm really looking forward to it. Is that it, Dave? Or question?
Thank you, David, for mentioning the survey. I was pleased to see that it's kind of mid-cycle, so that the assumption is get new people on board because it's free and then find out later how they felt about the experience. Is that the nature of the questions that you're anticipating?
I hope I caught everything there.
Well, I like the fact that the survey comes after they've been writing for a while.
Yes, we obviously don't want to do it on day one. Yeah, right. Yes.
And so then doing it on that timing, will the questions extract from them what their experience was? Now that we got you with the free fare, are we going to be able to keep you?
That's certainly something that we'll talk about with the contract. Yeah, we want some qualitative and quantitative information, right? We want to know, for instance, are they new riders, or you know, have they not ridden RFTA at all, or have they not ridden RFTA in 6 months? I don't know how we're going to determine what's a new rider versus what's an existing rider, but we'll look into that. So, you know, have we attracted new riders and to what extent? If they're existing riders, are they riding more often? We want to look at trip purposes. We want to look at origins and destinations, and then of course we want to know how they're feeling about this, and maybe in a variety of ways. For instance, are they happy that it's fare free? What's the experience of having a fare free program? Is it easier for them to travel now, or is too many people on the bus, or do they feel like, I'm getting a little tongue tied here, but basically, yeah, what's their experience like?
Good. Yeah. It sounds very well designed. Thank you.
Great, thanks. If that's it, any other questions, comments? Very exciting. People will be saving money and time. It'll free up time they'd be spent driving. So they may be able to read a book or, you know, learn how to crochet, you know, while they're riding the bus. This is exciting. On to the CEO report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. One item I do want to state, I probably should have shared it during our budget issues and considerations presentation, but there are a couple of strategic initiatives that were submitted for 2026 that may need to be implemented in 2025, just based on how our seasons span. Our winter season spans 2025 and 2026. So the one in particular that we might need to bring forward for discussion in September to advance sooner than our 2026 budget is a strategic initiative that has been submitted to increase our mid-valley capacity on our BRT system. So one of the issues that has been a growing concern since the implementation of BRT is, and primarily due to the growing demand that we're seeing in the lower valley, in Glenwood Springs and coming from the Colorado River Valley, is that the BRT buses, when they're departing Glenwood Springs, are full. So by time they get to Carbondale and the Mid Valley, there's no room for any additional passengers to board those buses. This has been somewhat of a longstanding issue that we've had, and we're taking a proactive stance here to bring an initiative forward to add additional capacity for the Mid Valley customers. Mid Valley now is kind of including Carbondale as well. So that's something that we would like to implement for this winter season, which means we'd have to have the funding for at least the portion of 2025, which is November and December, available to provide that service. So we'll be bringing that forward likely next month for discussion. And any other initiatives that we might need to advance a little sooner than the 2026 calendar year.
Yeah, David. Thanks for considering that. And I know that's something when I talk to residents in Basalt that they're like, oh, I'd ride the bus, but it's like you're standing and like, I'm not sure it's not comfortable. I'm not sure it's safe, et cetera, et cetera. So if I think that could drive some ridership and get some people out of their cars for sure.
Yes, we believe that there's significant latent demand for our transit service, particularly in the Mid Valley. One of the things, for any rider, you want to know that the service is reliable. And if it feels like it's up in the air when you show up at the bus station of whether you're going to be able to get on that bus or not, that's a reliability issue. And people need to know they're going to be able to get on the bus and hopefully have a seat so that they can reliably get to their destination. So we're hopeful that this will, if it moves forward, that it'll have the impact that we're hoping for.
Right. Rachel?
More of a comment. I appreciate you bringing that forward, David. I think we're experiencing the same thing in the Upper Valley as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so if those buses that are going all the way to Aspen are already pretty full at Carbondale, certainly some people are getting off in Basalt and for Snowmass Village, but I've heard from people, I went to try the bus, it was standing room only.
Yeah.
Thank you, goodbye. And I don't know what it would take. Perhaps it's something that could be penciled out while you're doing the budget for this year of additional buses just to and from the park and ride lot at Brush Creek, and the possibility that perhaps Aspen, or we could look at a way to increase that service as we're trying to get more people to choose to park there and get out of traffic. I want to echo a comment Francine Jacober made at the elected officials Transportation for the 21st Century Coalition, not the EOTC, but that, just getting people to park in the Brush Creek Park and Ride doesn't really help with the traffic at Basalt or El Jebel or other places. So I'm bearing that in mind. But at the very least, to be able to potentially get more people to carpool or park at the Brush Creek intercept lot, it'd be nice to present the numbers back to the city and back to the EOTC of what it would take to increase that service.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Our chair also asked me to just comment a little on the Transportation Coalition for the 21st Century that has been taking place over the last several months in the Upper Valley, which I've been attending. I think their last meeting was last week, and our chair asked just for my thoughts on that. I'm happy that they've secured a consulting team to deliver some of those hard messages so that we don't necessarily have to share those messages, but I think it was good for the group to hear those comments from the Fair and Peers team that reduction in congestion is really something that doesn't happen. It's, and it was explained due to latent demand and induced demand, that anytime you make room, it gets filled up by another user who now is able to drive. So I think really the best case scenario is being able to keep traffic volumes at where they're at. The next best thing is just being able to slow growth and create options for travelers. And options is really where I think the Upper Valley has focused their efforts over the last several decades and been incredibly successful. Data was shown that just because the traffic coming into Aspen in vehicles and single occupancy or even multiple occupancy has stayed the same since the 1993 traffic volumes over Castle Creek. But the demand and the number of people coming into the Aspen community has significantly increased over that time. Well, how are they getting into Aspen? And it was shown that most of those are coming in via the bus. The bus has accommodated that increased demand. It was also noted that several times during the meeting that there was a perception that RFTA was at capacity and really not in a position to be able to help with this issue in terms of congestion and improving transportation mobility in the Upper Valley. And I did had the opportunity towards the end of the meeting to clarify that that was not an accurate comment, and that we feel RFTA definitely is eager to be part of the solution in terms of how we improve mobility in the Upper Valley. Including if that means increasing the services that we're providing to provide more options for folks to get in and out of Aspen, new modes of service, new technologies. RFTA is eager to be a part of those conversations and solutions.
Great, thanks. Rachel.
Thank you again, Kurt, for your time being there. I think it's really critically important that the history of RFTA and the capacities of RFTA are fully considered. The one thing that really struck me from hearing the consultant speak was that you guys have somewhat saturated all the easy and readily available bus transit riders already. You've captured them. The people who are left, the pool who are left, are much more difficult to satisfy their needs for transportation, to get them out of their car, that you can only do so many incentives before you have to do disincentives as well. And so, but it was really to hear from outside experts, you have saturated the market of transit riders and have captured so many who would traditionally have driven if it weren't for RFTA. So that really defined the task well to me, to get how difficult it may be to really, get this additional 5,000 cars off the road a day, or how many more that the goals of the 21st Century Transportation Committee are. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say though that due to what we just mentioned about reliability of service, is that I think if we can improve the reliability of our BRT service and we can add more capacity at park and rides, more capacity on the bus, that there may be still latent demand of folks who would choose to use the bus if that was improved.
Including.
I agree. And they were looking at the whole system, even the in-town routes with Aspen and more Upper Valley stuff. So I agree. Thank you.
Great. David?
So kind of a charged question. I haven't watched any of those meetings. Has anyone talked about congestion pricing at all? Because the fundamental issue is that the demand for personal vehicles driving into Aspen is outstripping supply. I mean,
yeah.
And even if whatever happens with bridges and whatnot, safety aside, it's still, like you said, there's latent demand.
Right.
So
can I thank you for teeing that up?
Is there any discussion on
My
that?
comment was going to be the one thing I took away from Fair and Pierce, the consultants, when he said, the only thing that works is that it becomes more expensive. You make it more expensive and people will make a decision based on that. That's what I heard. That's what the major takeaway. Does that sound right, Kurt?
Yeah, it's if you want fewer cars coming into the community, you're either going to have to take away jobs that's creating that demand for people to come to the community, or price them through congestion pricing. Those are really the two things that are going to reduce the demand to come into Aspen. And I think the obvious response is, well, we don't want to reduce jobs. We don't want to impact the economy. So it looks like, pricing would be the next plausible option to help reduce that demand and hopefully shift folks to other more efficient means of getting in and out.
Yeah, because if you're going in to work and contribute to the economy and jobs and all that, it might be worth paying it. But if you can jump on the bus and do email and be Wi-Fi and take away a car trip, that's goodness for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sure. Now that you've mentioned it, thank you. Does the concept of congestion pricing, as the consultants described it, limited to a funnel point like the bridge or Brush Creek, where you've got kind of a capture point, as different from congestion pricing in Basalt or Carbondale, where you've got multiple routes and it's harder to enforce? Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I think that's likely how it would have to work. There's obviously a lot of hurdles to the concept of congestion pricing or tolling, or there's not a lot of capacity on Highway 82 as it sort of funnels down into Aspen. It's a CDOT facility. You would have to have CDOT on board with the concept. Typically, you want to have a free option to be able to travel. You could maybe make the case that the bus in the bus lane is that free option. There's a lot of work, I think, around the idea of congestion pricing and how that would possibly work on Highway 82. I know David here did a lot of work on that when he was at the OTC. I don't know if there's anything that you'd like to share based on those discussions or efforts. That
I don't have anything more profound to add other than that it is a big effort. There's a lot of different actors. Highway 82 is, as Kurt mentioned, is CDOT, and then there's federal funding in there. So federal highways would also be involved. So the complexity of doing it is not insignificant, particularly since we don't have a lot of precedent within the United States for doing congestion pricing.
The one thing I would add is there are other ways to price travel by auto, and it's just not prioritizing the automobile. So not making more capacity for the auto, or whether it be driving or for parking and storage. There's pricing that you can do for parking. Those are also very effective means to disincentivize private automobile travel. So, and those are things that are within the purview of the local jurisdictions in the Upper Valley. So
I'm going to go to Rachel.
Thank you. This may help answer your question, Steve, and I apologize. I probably should have said this during board member comments, but the coffee hadn't kicked in yet at 8:30. The city council has voted since our last meeting to move forward with a reevaluation of the preferred alternative, the existing record of decision, as opposed to entering into a brand new start from scratch 52 card pickup EIS. And during the process of that reevaluation, we can look at tools to potentially blend into the alternative as it is. You're right, congestion pricing would be very tricky to implement. You really need true HOV enforcement as one mechanism so that you can say HOV vehicles are free and they don't pay and a single occupant vehicle does, or whether you have license plates within the city limits or something that you get 15 free passes a month and after that you begin to be charged, or how is it broken up? There's just a million details, and we do know that the federal government is suing the state of New York to try to stop their congestion pricing program, and they're trying to stop high-speed rail in California, and that's part of why we're trying to stay within the four corners of our existing record of decision because the new EISs would not consider greenhouse gas emissions or cumulative impacts or anything like that. And so we're trying, we can go from the reevaluation into a supplemental if we need to pursue changes with that. But we are trying to move forward expeditiously with the entrance of Aspen. And we approved the $2.5 million contract with Jacobs Engineering to start that work, as well as the design and engineering to be able to get into the Colorado funding loop. So there's still a long path ahead, and we anticipate RFTA being a key part of the solutions. And, you know, to see it and this board's input to Kurt will be valuable in that process. Particularly, we're hearing a lot of people say, why don't you just get rid of the bus lane? You know, you'd all be solved if you just open that up to all the general traffic. And as you've said, it would just fill with yet new demand and might not solve any congestion issues at all and discourage ridership and multimodal usage. So we are trying to proceed. It's going to be a long and tricky process. Thank you.
Rachel, Kurt, let's keep going.
All right. So we do have a number of responses for public comment that occurred last month, as well as comments from the board members. And I will hand this over to David and his team to provide those responses.
All right. I guess this first one, Zach and Angie want to come up.
Good morning, everyone. Zach Sutherland, Safety, Security, and Risk Manager. We received a follow-up request from Ms. Brem regarding the e-bike incident last month in her public comments. We've addressed each of them in our response. You can find those on page 19 and 20 in your board packets. So the first thing I want to recognize is, as we say in our responses, a lot of those issues do fall outside of RFTA's jurisdiction. But rather than focus on what we can't do, we want to talk about what we are doing and what we can do for future planning. So right now, our main focus is on data collection. We want to find out how often these issues are occurring, what is the severity, what is the cause, what is the location on the trail, and so on. We have working relationships with Pitkin and Garfield County Emergency Management, municipal law enforcement, local hospitals. I'm happy to work with all of them to establish data collection sharing processes and look for those trends. I actually have a meeting next Thursday with most of those stakeholders at the Garfield County Public Safety Council meeting, and I'm going to make sure to bring up those concerns at that point and start putting those processes in place. We're also proactively doing some outreach and education work, reinforcing good behaviors with our trail etiquette program. That social media outreach campaign has nearly 20,000 views and almost 800 comments. And RFTA and Pitkin County have also implemented safety improvements along the trail itself. And Angie, if you'd like to speak to any of those things more specifically, or if there's any questions you all have, we'd be happy to answer them.
I'd love to add a quick comment.
Sure.
Yesterday, I was struck by no vehicle, struck by the notion that I felt unsafe for the first time on the bike path. And I commute to town on my bike. And I came across on the way people without helmets, without shoes, without horns, without mirrors, and with earbuds riding down the bike path, not alerting people. We're so casual on the bike paths, and there was enough congestion that I started really thinking, wow, this isn't entirely safe. And we've commented before that the varying speeds between a senior citizen or someone pushing a baby carriage on the path next to an e-biker like me trying to hammer to get to work at just right at the speed limit, and then everything else in between. And it wasn't all e-bikers. There were people on regular old bikes just riding without no hands on the pedals, earbuds in. Actually, who knows where they were in their head. But it was kind of terrifying. And so I made a comment about that yesterday. So the campaign for awareness and best practices really, I think, is essential. And I can't help but think that at some point we're going to want to talk about widening and striping or something like that, just to accommodate the large degree of varying velocity traffic that's on these paths. Thank you. And like, you're on the right track, I think.
So I
Aaron?
just had the pleasure of going to Europe, and one thing that struck me in a lot of these like multimodal communities is that they have lanes designated. And those bike lanes, if you're on foot and you step into that, you get mowed over unapologetically. It is like complete, and it's, but boy, oh boy, is it a real quick, like defining factor in behavior. And so I think the Rio Grande Trail has the capacity to start to implement things like that. And I would encourage us to seek those kind of solutions.
And the place I noticed, of course, is between the ABC into Aspen. That's where the high traffic was.
Sure.
And then also on the, coming down the Rio Grande, Stein Park, down to toward Woody Creek. It's getting pretty busy there too. So when you're looking, make sure to look around up there. Thank you. Keep going. Thank you. Sorry for that aside.
That's everything I have, unless there are any other questions or anything you'd like to add, Angie.
No, I think that's everything.
It's a timely exercise. Appreciate you doing it.
Thank you.
You want to address the board?
Sorry. Also just wanted to let Director Richards know that we are, regarding your comments of providing sort of a 1 to 2 page summary of what RAFT is doing, our budgets, our services that we provide within the Valley, that I think we've learned even just from attending those coalition meetings that there's new folks in the Valley and not everybody knows the history of RAFTA or really what RAFTA does. So I think it's a good time to get out to our various jurisdictions, have these presentations to hopefully bring folks up to speed. And I think that was a great suggestion and we're working on that. So thank you.
Yes.
The next one on here, this is the RAFTA board tour of the Rio Grande corridor. Just a quick update on that event. So we did have pretty good interest in this tour. And as a result, it looks like we would have a quorum, which means that it needs to be noticed and it needs to be open to the public if any public is interested in attending. But that posed additional questions as to how we facilitate that by bike. So we've migrated this into a by vehicle event and consolidated it from 2 days down to 1 day. So the hope here is that this does open it up to people of all abilities, as well as making it more accessible in terms of 1 day versus 2, which is a pretty large commitment. So the intent here is we would start in Glenwood Springs at the RAFTA offices on Blake and make our way up Valley and touch various points along the trail that have significance, particularly around the covenant enforcement covenant areas. So that is scheduled for November 3rd, again, starting in Glenwood, continuing up to Woody Creek Road with a lunch in Carbondale. Nicole here is the point of contact for the logistics. So if you get emails from her on this event, she's the one doing that coordination. Just wanted to provide that update and see if there were any questions.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we could not preclude people who'd like to go by bike.
Thank you for that.
So they're still doing the tour on the 21st and 2nd that you can go with.
21st and 22nd of this month? Okay. Okay. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Sounds good.
I was going to say that I appreciate the bike tour and I was still hoping we could pull it together. I won't be here for the next week. But maybe if anybody else is interested, I'd be interested in doing we can do an unofficial tour if anybody who wants to go. I'd like to bike the whole thing. I was also thinking, I'll make a confession. I've never ridden the entire RAFTA route on the bus. And as a board member, I feel a little bit chagrined about that. And so I was going to kind of propose that we all ride the route so we all know it from that perspective, because I'm not sure who has. Thanks.
A great idea. I'll join you.
Get a hold of me. Yeah, we'll get in touch. Great.
The next one here, we've got Rail Banking 101. Back to Angie.
This kind of goes along with what we've been talking about with educating new people in the Valley about RFTA and what RFTA does. One of the things that people don't realize is that we actually own and are a railroad corridor. We haven't done the kind of education around the railroad corridor that we should have been doing all of these years to let the board that's in charge of this asset know what we're doing, as well as going out to the public and letting them know. So we're implementing a Rail Banking 101 course. We are doing a public communications process with this as well. We are bringing the plan for the Rail Banking 101 courses to the board at the October board meeting. And then after the October board meeting, we'll start scheduling meetings to go out to the member jurisdictions, doing some internal meetings as well with our own staff to let them know why we do the things that we do and how valuable this asset is and what its long-term intended use is to helping address the multimodal needs that we have in the Valley to get people from point A to point B. And then we'll go out to the public as part of some additional studies we'll be doing next year, the Transportation Development Plan, to see where we fit into the long-term planning for the Valley.
That's great.
Any questions? Great. I'll see you guys in October. I'll be in Greece until then.
Sounds great. Okay.
And then finally, I'm happy to announce that we have hired a new regional planning director. So it's been a long search, and I'm very excited to have her on board. Got Hannah Klausman here. She's in the audience. She's coming to us from the city of Glenwood Springs, so I apologize to the city of Glenwood Springs.
It softens the blow that she's still regional. So
Hannah's been with the city for 9 years. She was most recently the Community and Economic Development Director for the city of Glenwood Springs, did do stints as their public information officer and assistant to the city manager. Before that, she was with the planning as a planner with the city of Rifle for several years. So she's been in the Valley for a long time. I think she understands a lot of the dynamics of the Valley. And really excited to have her on board with RFTA. She's going to be leading the Transportation Development Plan, or TDP, as well as the Move 2.0 study, which is the BRT extension through Glenwood Springs. And we'll also be working with Angie on the update to the Comprehensive Corridor Plan. She's, as we discussed at the summit, this position will also be working as a liaison and resource for planning, specifically transportation planning, to our member jurisdictions as well. So look for her out and about. Again, we're very excited to have her on board.
Great, welcome. Sorry, our apologies to Glenwood.
Okay, to wrap up the CEO report, I'll just point out that we do provide all of our performance metrics for our various services that we provide, including our first and last mile services. Just to note, our ridership on our fixed route transit services are up 2.8% year to date over 2024. Would happy to take any questions that any members have on any of our performance data. We also include a financial report that Mike provides from his team. So with that, happy to take any questions if there are any.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of great, I love looking through the charts, appreciate the inclusion of those. I don't think we need to go through each one today, but if anybody has a burning question, now's a good time. But if not, I know I wanted to say a couple things here that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting for Nicole. One is the RFTA meetings are going paperless. They're not going to publish those thick agendas any longer. I see everyone here appears to be able to handle that. So count on not making all that paper. And so I appreciate that. And I had one other. I did have a quick question before we go toward exec session, and that was just regarding the e-buses. He said ordered for next year. I wanted to propose an idea that we think about perhaps trying to electrify just the Maroon Bells route. And I'm not sure if that raises concerns with anyone else. But we've had comments both from the Pitkin County staff regarding big diesel buses. Are there other ways to do this? Might that corridor be an appropriate one for electrification? Maybe it's not. Just wanted to throw that out there, and you can come back to us another time with it, but wanted to flag that thought.
Okay, yes, we do have our operations director and our vehicle maintenance director working on that question to see if that's a possibility. I know some of the challenges that we've had is not so much with range, but it has to do with the grades and the way the regenerative braking works, coming down those grades with a full bus of passengers, but.
That'll charge you right up.
Yeah. So, but we'll get that response to you.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Mike Yang did just mention to me that he did have a comment on the financial report, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thanks, Kurt. Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the last page of the board packet is there's an update on the financing on the Iron Mountain Place employee housing project in Glenwood Springs. And so this is more of a heads up to the board that we went through a competitive process to seek proposals for that project. And we're moving forward with an award with Alpine Bank. And we've already had our kickoff call. And the estimated amount of financing is roughly 13 million. And because we did have the board approved resolutions to reimburse ourselves through this, the funds are intended to replenish RFTA's fund balance and also some of the costs of the issuance. The deadline to close on the financing is November of 2025. And so at the October board meeting, we plan to provide an update to the board with a resolution for seeking approval for authorizing staff to execute the documents and agreements necessary to close that deal before November 2025. So that's just a heads up. So we'll be speaking more about that in October.
Great.
Let me know if you have any questions.
Appreciate the due diligence.
Hey, Greg, Jeannie McQueenie has a statement to make.
Statement,
Yeah.
please. Jeannie.
Well, thanks. I'm so glad we got the audio working again. Nicole was going to ask this. I had put it in the chat, but I did hear from a constituent who lives 5 miles up the Frying Pan River, and she would like to see if we could have conversations about the Basalt Connect, including that part of the community. She did mention she's also a senior, and I didn't know if there were additional resources available to her for senior rides. But she would like to see if that community could be included.
Thanks, Jeannie. Is that Seven Castles? Is that about the vicinity? Do we know?
She said I'm 5 miles up, so
I'll have to look
I
at a
don't
map.
know where.
Probably
I don't
Seven
know
Castles.
where Seven Castles is. I mean, I do know where it is, but I don't know the mile
Don't know how
marker.
far. Well, thank you for that. Thanks for that. For future
And that's
consideration.
probably, that might be more of a something we need to pass along to the Basalt Town Council, but I wondered too if I should have said this while we were going through the overview of the budget and the assumptions for the budget for next year, but that's right about when the audio stopped working. So.
Thank you for that, Jeannie. Sorry for the confusion there. It's so strange to see you on the screen and not in person. You're such a diehard, but I appreciate
Well,
you
it
being
was
here.
really, it was listed as a shorter meeting, and so it felt like more time on the road than at the meeting, but.
Right. Well,
now
thank you
we're
for being.
Going longer, so it's all
Appreciate
good.
it. And sorry to run late. Okay. With that, is there anything else to add here? Then
Let's just make a quick response on.
Oh,
on
please.
that. We haven't looked up the Frying Pan ever. I know we've gotten requests for Allen Hills. I know other in Elgerbell. But we've been exploring those areas, but not up the frying pan at this point. It's just, there's not a lot density up there. I mean, and cell service with we haven't even looked into doing that really, so.
Right on demand, maybe even easier for, until there's demand for, individual demand.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, it's really interesting because as I'm sitting here, I got another email from somebody who is in the Seven Castles. So this woman, Llewellyn, passed along that I was going to bring it up at RFTA. And so you got another one who would, she mentioned she feels very lonely and isolated up that way.
That's what happens when you live in rural Colorado. Thank you for that.
I just had a quick comment
Yeah,
on that.
go ahead, Melissa.
Jeannie, maybe Vintage, because Vintage, they do those senior transportation rides.
Right.
And that covers Eagle.
That's right. There may be other
Right.
alternatives.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, I think I've got to open up my agenda to see, we've got an executive session. I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to CRS 246-4024EI or L. That's an L. Determining the matters that may be subject to negotiation, and 246-402FL personnel matters. And with Paul Tadoon, I think the exec committee for the agenda, Alyssa and I, we discussed whether or not Kurt should remain present, and I can't remember. I apologize.
He'll leave the room initially.
He'll leave the room initially, and then we can call you back in. Okay, thank you. Appreciate y'all. No, alternates are part of the pro. They stay, right?
Yeah.
Alternates stay, yeah. Oh, Aaron has to go. You're gonna hit the road. You didn't think we'd be so windy? Okay, as soon as the room's clear, we'll get in, we'll be in exec, or actually I need a motion, don't I? I need a motion in a second.
Move a motion.
I have a motion from Aaron, who was the first one, and then Alyssa is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For the end of the session. Okay, I need a motion
Motion to adjourn the executive
and a
session.
second from Colin for the exec session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now you have
A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion from Colin, a second from David Knight, David K. DK, thank you. I'm working on I apologize for the abbreviations. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all.